It was over 30 years ago. My late father was sitting in California leafing through a magazine, and he saw a photograph of this cottage for sale by auction, and he knew that my wife Joanna and I and our family were looking to be by the sea, and he tipped us off to this place, and we came down and looked at it, and it took our breath away.
From the sea's edge, where white cliffs rise and cottages shelter against the wind, the river begins its slow, deliberate journey inland. It winds through meadows once tilled by patient hands, bound together by the gentle, unbroken rhythm of the Cuckmere. Past the steeples and flint churches where prayer and song have echoed for centuries, of faith and fellowship.
About 20 years ago now, I saw an article in a local free paper, and I thought, how hard can it be?
Always fancied bell ringing since I was in my 20s, early 20s possibly. I used to belong to a walking group in the Midlands, and we used to go long distance walks, and we had a backup party, and there was a guy in the backup party who used to go and ring bells wherever we were, and I thought that sounds like a really cool thing to do.
Obviously, as a bell ringer, our main purpose is to call people to worship, but it's also to share community events. And we all like to hear the bells when there's a wedding. On the ropes that hang down in the ringing room are just plain ropes, but around about head height, we have a woolly bit, a sort of fluffy bit that's quite 4 or 5 feet long. This is called the sally, and this is to distinguish hand stroke, which is when we're pulling the sally, to backstroke, which is when we're just pulling the tail end, and then we catch the sally. So we can do hand stroke, backstroke, and that's a continuous process until we stop ringing.
So it was a kind of a community in itself. I thought, now's the time, and I started really just before COVID, but then it all had to stop.
We will ring for funerals. Sometimes people want a sombre sounding bell, they might want a single bell tolling, or they might want a muffled ring. When we muffle the bells, we half muffle the bells so that you get the full sound in one round, and then you get it almost like an echo in the second round, and it goes on like that.
Very much a beginner. I'm not the newest in the tower, but I'm certainly a beginner in terms of competency and accuracy. People in the tower have been ringing for half a century. They still don't consider themselves experts. Some might say a musical element, but I'd say it's more mathematical than musical. So there's 8 bells there, so they're ringing now, and they're ringing 7, and then the 8th one is always last. So if you think of 7 bells ringing in different congregations, there are 5,040 different orders of those 7. So there's lots of what they call methods, where you ring something in to a particular sequence, where the combination of those 7 are in different orders. You just have to concentrate, basically. You can't think about what you're going to have for lunch, or whether you remember to get something from the shop because you lost your place. But it's a great community here. 9 o'clock, we'll be down in the pub.
My husband and I were actually able to ring the bells for our own wedding. I can ring a bell that 2-3 tons. As long as I don't do anything too energetic with it, it's just the feeling of power. Then you get to the bit where every time you ring, it's a performance, and so you have to think about what the people outside are hearing. You get a bit anxious about when it doesn't sound too good. There are all sorts of things about it. There's the camaraderie, there's going to the pub afterwards and discussing, putting the whole world to rights. It's not just bell ringing. You become a family as well. Very, very odd mixture of people, but we all get on.
You can come to St Leonard's in Seaford. You can go to any church where you hear the bells. If you hear them practising, go and knock on the door. I'm sure they'll welcome you with open arms.
Along its banks, fields and woodlands have nurtured generations, each leaving their quiet mark while drawing strength from the water's steady course.
Down by the river.
And as it spreads wide into calm waters, it brings not only sustenance, but a stillness, a reminder that time flows on.
Down by the river, Cuckmere. Down by the river, there I go, there I go. Down.
In the folds of chalk hills and open farmland, the river carries with it the memory of toil and harvest. Nestled in the rolling folds of the South Downs, West Dean is a village where the past quietly shapes the present. West Dean's recorded history stretches back over 1,000 years. The path winds through to All Saints Church, a Norman flint building that has watched over this valley for more than 8 centuries. Its footpaths are alive with locals and visitors who come to share in its calm beauty. Though small, West Dean is no relic. Its lanes and homes are lived in. Nearby, the old manor house and time-worn flint cottages tell of farmers, craftsmen, and gentry whose lives were bound to these hills.
Been here in West Dean for about 20 plus years now, and it's been a family property for over 100 years. And we came here after we sort of semi-retired from the hotel industry. I did some archaeology there, training, and still do a little of that. But now here at the farm, we run a small fruit farm and some holiday cottages. A Saxon village, and that's identified by its one road in and one road, same road out. So you went to the village and then left it again. You didn't go there on the way to somewhere else. 884 is about the earliest written information when Bishop Asser visited Alfred the Great here. He died 899, left it to his daughter Ethelfleda, and that sort of went on through the Saxon era until the Normans came in 1066. And they altered the church quite a lot, amended it, improved it, built the tower, did some alterations to it. And then it sort of went on quite a while through the Norman lineage, and there's some lovely buildings like the Dovecot we can see here. And then it sort of drifted off a little bit until the Georgians came, when they injected a lot of money into extending the old manor house. Behind us here, where the Dovecot is, a small flint working pit, which was fascinating because there were some half-finished flint tools, as well as what's called the debitage, the waste. So when they're chipping away, you can see where they were, and you get an arc of the flint debitage in front of you. So that shows that quite an old community here. Then the church was developed round about the Saxon era, 300, 400, 500 AD. Became a centre of the community within the farmstead. Church was the centre of things. That went right through until the Cavendishes, the Dukes of Devonshire, bought it in 1813, and they ran it as a small farm. Eventually it became Waterworks Co. for Eastbourne, and then owned by South East Water, but with Forestry Commission leasing 200 years worth of time here to change it from sheep downland to forestry. Well, it's certainly new in the life of the village. Started 1926, 1928, and it was leased from the Waterworks Co. To grow softwood and medium wood like fir and beech. We'd run out in the First War, of wood for all sorts of purposes, and so they thought never again. And so forestry planted quite a bit around the UK. Gradually it was developed right through the 20s into the forest we see today. They are logging now a little out. It's never been massively productive because of the chalk soils. But we do some unusual stuff like mulberries, quince, fig, damsons, and then go to the market at Eastdean with that. And it's a local produce, really lovely. It's sort of all done organically and no sprays, chemicals, so that keeps me busy.
Towards the fields of glory I can see. I find a place that takes me back along the winding river track. Solitude was never what I craved as I wander through the haze.
This bin here, a bit of coal stone, in our local green sound English stone. Local made bricks when they're firing them in the woods or with charcoal. And there's a sand possibly which is glazed, and they often use these as waterproofing as well.
Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking on and on. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking, no time to rest.
We're fourth generation here on the property in the middle of the village, and there's several other families who've been here a long time also. It's a nice community, we all sort of get on. It still has a sense of its time in the past.
Down by the river, down by the river, yes, down by the river, down by the river I go, down by the river, down by the river.
To the south, the winding river Cuckmere curves gently toward the sea, while nearby meadows and the chalk hills of the South Downs invite walkers, riders, and those who simply seek stillness. Cradled in the green embrace of the Cuckmere Valley, the village of Litlington holds a quiet charm shaped by centuries of Sussex life. Though small, Litlington is no museum piece. Its pub, tea rooms and working farms keep village life vibrant. A place where history and everyday living continue side by side. Here, in this quiet corner of East Sussex, the rhythm of the valley carries on, just as it has for hundreds of years.
When the clock strikes 4 and the day feels long, I hear the kettle singing that sweet, sweet song. Yeah, I like a nice cup of tea with my scone. I like a nice cup of tea, just bring
Welcome
it
to
on.
Litlington Tea Gardens. I am Mercedes Andrews and I am the owner, and we would love for you to come and visit us in our gorgeous gardens and enjoy a beautiful green tea.
I can remember coming to this place and it looked a bit more formal than it does now. But I can remember coming here, as I said, you know, when I was quite a young child. And then my memory slips forward until I get to sort of mid-teenage years, because then my friends were all getting jobs out here as waitresses. And I really longed to do that. But of course I was the greengrocer's daughter and I had to stay serving the spuds and the carrots. And while my friends, I imagined them having this terribly glamorous time, sort of teetering about with their trays nicely loaded with china, teacups and all the rest of it. That looks very nice, I could do with that.
I like a nice cup of tea with my scone. I like a nice cup of tea as I go along. But just about
And I go straight into the cream, load that on and then put the jam on top of that. I don't care whether it's correct or not, that's the way I do it. Enjoy it.
everything stops for a kettle that sings, collector of the china and the joy it brings.
Nice cup of tea.
Sip it slow, then all your troubles fade.
You know,
Afternoon
breakfast is nice, lunch can be delicious, but afternoon tea is simply wonderful.
I want a cup of tea, a cup of tea.
Its centerpiece is St. Michael's Church, a simple flint and stone sanctuary whose walls have stood since the 12th century. Watching over farmers, shepherds and travellers on the ancient valley paths. The village of Alfriston is one of the brightest jewels of the South Downs. A place where centuries of history meet the easy charm of a thriving village. At its centre stands St. Andrew's Church, often called the Cathedral of the Downs. Its sturdy 14th century tower rising above the village green. Nearby, the timber-framed Alfriston Clergy House, the first property ever saved by the National Trust, offers a glimpse of medieval domestic life. Alfriston's narrow streets are lined with flint cottages, cosy pubs, tea rooms, and independent shops. Welcoming visitors from near and far. Walkers pause here on the South Downs Way, while families explore galleries, antique shops, and riverside paths. Festivals, markets, and music events fill the calendar, adding colour to the historic setting. In Alfriston, past and present come together, offering travellers not just a visit, but a chance to linger, explore, and belong. Yet beyond the bustle, the village keeps its quiet heart. The gentle flow of the river, the soft hills rising all around, and the enduring sense of a community that continues to thrive.
Here we are at Alfriston, where the salt water meets the fresh water. While on the bridge, I spotted something from up there and I want to show you. Sadly broken, but this is the top of late 1800s lemonade bottle. And this is a stoneware cider flagon, or a piece of. So somebody had a picnic here about 120 years ago. I want to tell you about this particular river. It's one of 4 tidal rivers in Sussex that come down through the Downs. They are tidal to a certain point where they stop, and then they're freshwater. So they have wildlife that can tolerate saltwater and freshwater, and they cross over. The tide comes in and out, and plants go up and down as well. So we have a mix of things here. It's called a wildlife corridor. Years and years and years ago, about 10,000 years ago, this river didn't reach the sea. We're in the middle stretch now, by the way, but it didn't reach the sea until it got somewhere way out in the Atlantic. But after the Ice Age, the whole thing changed. Have a look at the water, and it appears as if the tide is coming in. But that's just the wind blowing off the sea, rippling that water. It's absolutely still. The tide is low at the sea, and it hasn't come up and poured into here yet. So this is totally fresh water that's come down from the hills above. In there are about 13 different species of freshwater fish, even though you can't see them. They'll be hiding in the dark, deep holes. And when the tide comes in will come saltwater fish that can tolerate brackish water. That is water that's half salt, half fresh. And they are grey mullet, flounders, and sea trout. Although it looks quiet at this time of day, and on this particular day, there are something like 60 or 70 different types of bird that have been recorded in this valley. Yesterday in the Ouse Valley, a white-tailed eagle was spotted. They've been reintroduced from Scotland to the Isle of Wight, where they used to live. Wild swans here build their nests in the spring. And at that time they get very angry. They fight amongst themselves, but they also attack people if they think it's necessary. And if you get near to a swan's nest in along a bank on a river like this, and it has actually happened to me here. There's a way to stop that bird attacking you if it has the mind to. Generally speaking, if you get near to a female sitting on a nest, she'll get angry and she'll stand up on the eggs to show you why she's angry. And then if you turn away, she sits back down and all's well. But the male bird is nearby. And if she calls him, if she feels endangered by you getting too close, he will come and attack you. And he can break arms and legs with his wings very, very easily. What you do is you imitate with a whistle the noise that the little chicks make when they first hatch. It's a series of little calls, either 3 and a stop, 4, 5 maybe. Oh, look at that. I was just going to tell you about the birds of prey here. Either side of the water there are what's called a rough meadow, and they're the favourite habitat of a short-tailed vole, which is the favourite food of about half a dozen different predatory birds. And that was a kestrel, and there are owls that come here. So it's alive, the whole place, from wall to wall. Oh, I have to tell you about the geese. They are the major source of wildlife down here is the geese. They come here in the winter. They sleep on the reservoirs higher up the river where they're safe from being attacked by foxes in the night. During the day they go down to the water meadows where they can eat what's growing, several types of vegetable in the shallow water, and see the foxes if they try and attack them there. I'm outside of St Andrew's Church in Alfriston, and I've got a discovery I have to show you.
What is it?
These are Saxon beads. They're about 800 years old. They were used as money, and they're every shape, colour and size you could ever imagine.
Where did you find them?
On the Downs. There were various sites that were burial sites for people, and they had their beads with them. And over the years the ploughs turned them over and spread them all over the place. So you have to be lucky, you have to walk the hills a lot, and this is what you might find, and it's just a wonderful thing to have in your hand.
Perched on a quiet ridge above the Cuckmere Valley, the tiny hamlet of Litlington offers a view of Sussex life that feels almost timeless. Its heart is Litlington Church, dedicated to the Good Shepherd. A simple flint building, often said to be the smallest church in England. Within its peaceful walls, centuries of prayer and village history are held in silence. Around it, a handful of cottages and farmsteads rest among rolling fields. Footpaths lead from the churchyard, drawing walkers who come to share in the quiet beauty of the landscape. In Wilmington, history and mystery remain part of everyday life. Around the village, flint cottages, farmsteads, and wooded paths reflect a community that continues to thrive amid the timeless scenery. Families still live and farm here, keeping alive the gentle rhythm of rural Sussex life. On this high and peaceful ground, the past lingers softly.
Behind me, you've probably already noticed, is a very famous figure indeed.
Seasons come and seasons go. Seasons fade and seasons glow. So I head for home. My work is done. Tomorrow is another day, and time just drifts away.
He's so cool because he does appear long, because one of the amazing things about his design is that he's best viewed from about 60 foot above the top of the church. So how did this all begin? If you'd come here before Victorian times, you wouldn't see that white outline behind me. That's completely modern. It's white painted concrete. In the 19th century, it was outlined with painted bricks. And before that, the Long Man was just a faint shadow, a dark shadow on the hillside. For a long time, the oldest picture of the Long Man was in the late 18th century by William Burrell, who came here. And if you look at the picture, it's amazing. It doesn't look like the modern outline. It looks like a jolly farmer. Recent excavation shows that there is indeed a V-shaped tool at the top there, because he's not holding spears, he's not holding standards. He may well be just holding agricultural tools. His figure is dressed, has a collar, has short hair. And who was the king at the time? George III. He had a serious interest in farming. And this, of course, became a bit of a joke with the popular press. Here you have the country's top aristocrat interested in what people regard as peasant work. But William Burrell would also have at least heard of, if not read, a book from the earlier part of the century, which is still read today, Gulliver's Travels. We have mythical giants, and we also have very small people. And the mythical giants are giant farmers. For decades, they're all called George. And what does George mean in ancient Greek? Farmer. He's in fact not long at all. He's rather shorter and broader, as you might guess. He's well over 200 foot high. That's 40 times my height easily. We finally arrived, and look at the view of the Long Man now. He is much more proportionate.
Its small lanes wind towards St Mary and St Peter's Church, a Norman flint building whose centuries-old stones have witnessed the rhythms of village life. Births, marriages, and quiet farewells. Walkers pause here, not just to admire the views, but to feel the quiet connection between people and the land.
It's called the Phoenix Window because it had to be restored after the terrible fire of more than 20 years ago. It's actually post-medieval, and it shows St. Peter with the keys to heaven, but around him is something most unusual. There are beautiful butterflies, moths, and even bees.
The Right Reverend George Bell, Bishop of Chichester, had conceived an audacious plan that would bridge centuries of fractured history between the church and the arts. Bell's vision was revolutionary, yet deeply rooted in tradition. The Protestant Reformation of the 16th century had severed the sacred bond between ecclesiastical patronage and artistic expression, leaving English churches stark and unadorned for over 400 years. The bishop saw an opportunity to heal this ancient wound while nurturing the spiritual dimension he believed modern art could bring to religious life. The commission he extended to the Bloomsbury artists, Duncan Grant, Vanessa Bell, and her son Quentin Bell, represented more than mere decoration. These artists, already renowned for their avant-garde sensibilities and their role in transforming British modernism, brought to this sacred space the same innovative spirit that had revolutionized galleries and drawing rooms across London. Duncan Grant's ambitious scheme unfolded with remarkable urgency, transforming the church interior despite severely limited wartime resources. When Mr. Humphrey posed as the airman in Grant's magnificent Christ in Glory, the boundary between earthly and heavenly realms dissolved. The Bloomsbury artists created not merely church decoration, but a living bridge between past and present, between the secular and the sacred, between the intimate scale of village life and the grand sweep of Christian narrative. To the south lies the historic Core, the Cricketers' Pub, and a classic K6 red telephone box adding quintessential charm. Two miles north, near the railway line established in 1846, lies Berwick Station. Berwick lies at a walker's crossroads, home to the Berwick Inn, supporting a modern settlement sprung from Victorian connectivity. Nearby, the celebrated Vanguard Way runs along the ridge, inviting ramblers with sweeping vistas of the Downs and the meanders of the Cuckmere River. In 1924, Captain Douglas Ann and his wife Drusilla bought a derelict farm and about 20 acres of land from the Firle estate. In 1925, they opened Drusilla's Tea Cottage, where travellers in early motorcars paused for cream teas and country tranquility. Captain Ann added a small baby zoo soon after. A narrow-gauge steam train was introduced, and visitors came not only for tea, but for the gentler charms of countryside animals and fresh air. Today, Drusilla's still keeps much of its original spirit. It is a modern tradition, yet no less a part of the village's character than the ancient church that overlooks the valley. Perched by the gentle bend of the River Cuckmere, St Pancras Church looks as if it has grown out of the Sussex downland itself. Low flint walls, a red-tiled nave, and a squat west tower topped by a tall, shingled spire that pierces the skyline. The usual way into the church is through the south porch. The building's most architecturally celebrated arch is, however, the chancel arch, a late 12th century feature that marks the transition from the older Saxon nave to the later medieval chancel. Inside and out, you can see a patchwork of ages, Saxon long and short coins, Norman and transitional work around the north chapel and aisle, and decorated period windows in the chancel. It's the kind of village church that rewards a slow look. The carved stone, the reused Roman bricks, and the urn in the chapel all whisper of lives that touch this spot across 1,000 years. And at the heart of the community stands the village hall. The first was little more than a repurposed army hut. By 1987, the villagers had raised funds, many through the now famous Bluebell Walk, to build a new hall. But fate intervened. In October that year, the great storm tore across the county, ripping the unfinished roof from the building. Yet the people of Arlington rebuilt. By the following year, the hall opened, standing not just as bricks and mortar, but as a symbol of resilience. A community weathering the storms of history together. Arlington is not only a village of silence and memory. Just beyond the hedgerows, another sound tells a different story.
Racer! Racer! Yeah, racer! I'm a banger racer, hear that roar!
For decades, Arlington Stadium has echoed with the roar of engines.
I'm a banger racer, feel that roar. Sussex Speedway, hear me soar.
A theatre of speed and spectacle in the Sussex night.
Racer! Racer! Yeah!
In the 1960s, the landscape of Arlington was transformed. To quench the thirst of a growing population, the River Cuckmere was dammed and meadows were flooded to create Arlington Reservoir. As the waters rose, the land gave up its secrets. The tusks of mammoths, the skulls of woolly rhinoceros, and pottery from Roman times. Today, the reservoir is a sanctuary for wildlife. Kingfishers flash across the surface, flocks of widgeons settle in winter, and ospreys pause on their long migration. But beneath the still waters lies a buried past, a reminder of ages long gone.
Time to go home. Time when all is done.
High on the windswept downs above the Cuckmere River, once stood the village of Exeat, a Saxon community alive with the rhythm of sea and prayer.
Time.
From its tiny church, voices once rose.
Time to go home.
Against the roar of the wind and waves.
Time.
By the 15th century, Exeat was gone.
When all is done.
Now, only a single stone stands guard.
Time.
Even the most forgotten places can speak to us across the centuries,
when all is done.
telling their stories to those who take the time to listen. As the light fades and the tide turns once more, it continues its toilsome journey, ever flowing, timeless.